Chapter 3, Team Communications and Difficult Conversations. The following learning objectives will be looked at. The principles of team communication in high-performing teams. We'll describe and demonstrate approaches to planning, running, and following up on meetings. Explain the principles of effective virtual team communication. Describe strategies for effective group writing. And explain basic principles for handling difficult conversations. So this chapter covers those topics. Teams can take many forms. Some teams are formally and permanently organized and titled, such as the marketing team. Other teams are temporarily formed for completing a project or an activity. The most common functions of teams are handling special projects, completing the work of particular departments, developing internal systems innovations, creating customer service innovations, developing product innovations, engaging in employee development, and reducing time to market for products and services. In a recent survey, business professionals cited ineffective communication, 66%, as the biggest barrier to team effectiveness. Other major barriers included lack of effective chartering and goal setting, 56%, lack of clarity and understanding of the roles, which is 47%, low morale, 44%, low productivity, 42%, and lack of trust, which is 36%. All of these factors relate to communication competencies. Similarly, when ranking the most frustrating aspects of being a part of a team, business professionals cite the following: ineffective use of meeting time, 54%, ineffective communication among team members, 50%, lack of accountability, 47%, individuals who don't complete assignments, 44%, and lack of preparation in meetings, 41%. All of these factors in turn relate to communication competencies. Your teams will perform far better if they follow the basic principles of team communication, all of which depend on a strong, listening-centered approach. Work in teams is among the most researched aspects of work performance, and hundreds of teams have supported each of the following principles. Teams should focus first and foremost on performance. Teams go through 4 natural stages to reach high performance. Effective teams build a work culture around values, norms, and goals, and effective teams meet often. Some additional principles are: effective teams embrace differing viewpoints and conflict. Effective teams provide a lot of positive feedback and evaluate their performance often. Effective teams feel a common sense of purpose. Nearly all high-performing teams go through 4 stages before they maximize their performance. In best-case scenarios, work teams take roughly 6 to 7 months to reach this level. Typically, leaders become less directive and more consultative as the team progresses through the stages forming, storming, norming, and performing. In the forming stage, months 1 and 2, team members focus on gaining acceptance and avoiding conflict. In some ways, this stage is a honeymoon period in which team members get to know one another. In the storming stage, months 2 and 3, team members open up with their competing ideas about how the team should approach work. This stage is typically the least productive, since team members are attempting to make sense of uncertain roles, goals, and accountabilities. In the norming stage, months 4 and 5, the team arrives at a work plan, including the roles, goals, and accountabilities. And in the performing stage, months 6 and 7, teams operate efficiently toward accomplishing their goals. They have evolved to a level where they can transform disagreement and conflict into consensus for future action. Organizations and teams constantly attempt to foster unity and high performance. Team culture refers to a set of shared perceptions and commitment to collective values, norms, roles, responsibilities, and goals. Typically, teams rapidly develop such shared perceptions and commitment during the norming stage. Only at the performing stage do these shared perceptions and commitments lead to high productivity. One way that high-performing teams ensure they develop and live up to shared standards, norms, and goals is to create a team charter. The team charter provides direction to the team and how it functions to meet shared objectives. Common elements of a team charter include purpose or mission, values, goals, team member roles, including leadership, tasks, ground rules, communication protocol, meeting protocol, decision making rules, conflict resolution, and feedback mechanism. In Figure 3.2, you can see an abbreviated team chart created by the Prestigio marketing team. It contains many features common to team charters. Diversity comes in two forms, inherent and acquired. Inherent diversity involves traits such as age, gender, ethnicity, and sexual orientation. Acquired diversity involves traits you acquire through experience, such as customer service experience, retail experience, or engineering experience. Having both types of diversity is called 2D diversity. Companies with 2D diversity are about 45% more likely to report a growth in market share during the past year and about 70% more likely to have captured a new market. The following behaviors help drive acquired diversity: making sure everyone is heard, making it safe to let team members express their novel ideas, giving team members decision-making authority, sharing credit, giving useful feedback, and putting feedback into action. In short, these behaviors drive an innovative, speak-up culture. Two principles that team members use to embrace and respond to differing viewpoints are disassociation and association. Now, disassociation is a process by which professionals accept critique of their ideas without taking it personally and becoming defensive. On the other hand, association is the psychological bonding that occurs between people and their ideas. Because the purpose of most meetings and team communication is to increase agreement about roles, goals, and accountabilities, and to increase the group's sense of purpose, team members should seek association by the end of a meeting or team communication. Generally, high-performing teams go through repeated cycles of dissociation and association. That is, they suspend attachments to ideas in the initial discussion phase and then attach themselves to ideas as they commit to mutually developed goals and related action items. You could see this in Figure 3.3. Many teams are created to accomplish projects in short periods of time, often in just a few weeks, up to a few months. Short-term teams face unique challenges. To develop quick trust is critical. Get to know each other. Hold an effective launch meeting. Commit to working together and separately, and set up a deliverable schedule and evaluate performance regularly. One of the fastest ways to increase trust, particularly among teammates who don't know each other, is through self-disclosure. Self-disclosure is sharing information about yourself, such as your goals, aspirations, views and values, and experiences. Teammates often bond emotionally and learn about one another's strengths by opening up or self-disclosing to each other. Planning for meetings requires strategy, scheduling, and coordination. At a minimum, you should answer the following questions in your preparation. What is the purpose of the meeting? Who should attend? When should the meeting be scheduled? And what roles and responsibilities should people at the meeting have? Other questions that you should answer in preparing for meeting include the following. What will be the agenda? What are we going to cover? What materials should I distribute prior to the meeting so there's research? When and how should I invite others? And what logistical issues do I need to take care of? Reserving the room, any special equipment, printing materials. Generally, you should avoid meetings, especially brainstorming meetings, during the least productive times of the day, usually the afternoon. Typically, most employees are at their best performance in the morning. as you can see in Figure 3.6. As you plan, consider the type of meeting you want. Meetings can be broadly categorized as coordination meetings or problem-solving meetings. Coordination meetings primarily focus on discussing roles, goals, and accountabilities. Problem-solving meetings typically involve brainstorming about how to address and solve a particular work problem. In actuality, nearly all meetings involve both coordination and problem-solving. However, coordination meetings typically include many agenda items with a reasonable expectation of accomplishing each item in the allocated time. Problem-solving meetings, by contrast, involve more fluid issues that are less easily classified as discrete agenda items and that are less easily given time allotments. Agendas provide structure for meetings. For most meetings, preparing and distributing an agenda ahead of time allows each meeting participant to form expectations and prepare. Most agendas should include items to be covered, the time frames, goals and/or expected outcomes, roles, and materials needed. You can foster more effective meetings by getting others involved in the agenda creation process. For example, at least several days in advance, ask meeting participants for agenda items they want included. As you develop the agenda, pay attention to the ordering of items so that it flows, much like you would expect other written communication to flow from point to point. Also consider placing those agenda items of most importance near the beginning. This way, if items take longer than expected, you are forced to shelve some items. You have addressed the highest priority items first. See Figure 3.7 here for an agenda for the Prestigio marketing team. If you've planned and prepared well for the meeting, you are in a great position to carry out your meeting objectives. Each meeting should have a facilitator. The facilitator acts from a neutral position to get each person to participate in the conversation and ensure that each agenda item is properly discussed. Facilitators should acknowledge, check for understanding, paraphrase, and summarize, not judge. Ask for elaboration and get everyone involved. Sometimes this may require using explicit phrases such as, "I'd like each person to take 2 minutes to." For routine meetings, the facilitator is often the organizer. One priority should be to end the meeting on time. Before ending the meeting, summarize what you have accomplished. In just a few minutes, you can recap action items that the team has agreed on. After a meeting ends, even for those you do not lead, you should mentally evaluate your performance. Consider these questions. How much information, analysis, and interpretation did I provide? Did I communicate my ideas even if they conflicted with someone else? Did I participate in the implementation of the timeline? Did I meet deadlines? Did I facilitate the decision-making process, or did I just go with the flow? Meeting follow-up minutes components include the following: date and time of the meeting, who was present, the meeting roles, key decisions, key discussion points, open issues, and then action items and deadlines to be completed. Follow up by distributing the minutes of the meetings. Minutes of the meeting should include the date and time, the team members present, decisions, key discussion points, open issues, and action items and related deadlines, as just discussed. You can also include the names of the people who were invited but were absent and the aligned roles. Note taker. The minutes serve as a record of what your team accomplished. Figure 3.8 provides an example of meeting minutes. Organizations increasingly rely on virtual teams to complete projects, initiatives, and a variety of other tasks. These virtual teams generally consist of team members located at various offices, including home offices, and rely almost entirely on virtual technologies to work with one another. One recent survey showed that about 80% of professionals in multinational companies report working on a team that is located in different locations. In fact, 64% of these professionals work with team members located in other countries. Cool. In addition to the principles for working effectively in traditional teams, considering the following tips when working in virtual teams. Focus on building trust at each stage of your virtual team. Meet in person if possible. Get to know one another. Use collaborative technologies and choose an active team leader. Professionals in virtual teams rank the following characteristics as most important among virtual teammates. Willingly sharing information. Being proactively engaged, and collaborating. Typically, you can take actions across the entire life cycle of a virtual team that bolster your credibility and help establish trust within your virtual team with a focus on competence, caring, and character. In Table 3.1, you can see various strategies for displaying competence, caring, and character at each stage of virtual teamwork to build and maintain trust within the team. Take a look at that. In Table 3.1, you can see more various stages for displaying that competence, caring as you build the team. So just to finish off our table. Consider the following tips to make your virtual meetings more productive. Start the meeting with social chat. Start with a contentious question. Ask, what do you think about? Questions. Make sure each member is involved. Articulate views precisely. Take minutes in real time. Focus on your teammates and avoid multitasking. Ugh. Use video when possible. Creating a strong, precise, and coherent document with many writers is challenging. As you write with teams or other groups, consider applying the following tips. Start right away. Work together at the planning stage. Make sure your role and contributions are fair. Stay flexible and open. Meet in real time consistently and ensure the writing reflects the views of the group. Discuss how you will the document together, how you will bring the document together and how you will edit the document together. Consider a single group member to polish the final version and ensure a consistent voice. Business professionals routinely, often on a daily basis, encounter difficult conversations, especially when working in teams and collaborating with others. Difficult conversations are approached with apprehension, nervousness, anxiety, and even fear. Difficult conversations often center on disagreement, conflict, and bad news. Many people prefer to avoid difficult conversations because they want to avoid hurting the feelings of others, they want to avoid conflict, or for other reasons. I know I'm one of them too. Most people back away from uncomfortable or unpleasant conversations. This is particularly the case when we feel we have a lot to gain but risk heavy losses if it doesn't go right. For these reasons, difficult conversations are often emotionally challenging. Successful people in the workplace do not evade difficult conversations. Those who regularly tackle them with skill and tact improve work performance for themselves and others. These basic tried and true principles for handling difficult conversations in the workplace rely on active listening with a learner mindset. Embrace difficult conversations. Approach them. Do them. Assume the best in others. Adopt a learning stance. Stay calm and overcome noise. Find a common ground. Disagree diplomatically and avoid exaggeration and either or approaches. The following steps will help guide you through difficult conversations. Start declare your intent. Listen to their story. Then tell your story. Create a shared story. You can disagree diplomatically by validating the views and feelings of others and using I statements. Validating others means that you recognize their perspective and feelings as credible or legitimate. It does not necessarily mean that you agree. I statements begin with phrases such as I think, I feel, or I believe. They soften comments to sound more conciliatory and flexible and less blaming and accusatory. After studying this chapter, you should understand the following: the principles of team communication, the approaches to effective meetings, and effective virtual teams, some group writing strategies, and how to handle difficult conversations. And that concludes our lecture for Chapter 3.